Welcome to the Real Chat Podcast,
where we talk business, lifestyle, and mindset.
For the modern entrepreneur.
I'm Baxter Colburn.
I'm Allison Elise.
I'm Mandi Wilkie. Let's chat.
All right, welcome back to the Real Chat Podcast. I'm Baxter Colburn. That's Allison Elise and Mandi Wilkie. A very happy day to you, ladies. How are you today?
Good. The sun is shining.
It's beautiful out, right?
After like a 38-day
Say
rain
monsoon
And
season.
That storm last night. Did it wake
Yes.
you guys up?
It woke us up,
woke
and
me up.
all three of the boys slept solid through it. This morning, Beckham was like, "What storm?" I'm like, "Literally, the house was shaking." He's like,
Yeah.
"I got nothing for you." I'm
Yeah.
like,
I thought
"Really?"
our trampoline was going to flip over.
Yeah, our
I
trash
pray-
cans were
Wild.
flipped. It was crazy.
I pray no trees fall in the Schmidt Park because they are massive.
We had our trees trimmed a couple of weeks ago, and that was because of these storms. I was like, I don't want a tree branch to come through my house, and thankfully they got it done
Yeah.
in time. So
Yeah.
Fun fact, that happened. We got home from the hospital when we had Wes, and a tree was on top of my house.
Oh,
I don't know that that's a fun fact.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe it's more of a fact.
more of a by the way, maybe. It's not
Like an
Sidebar.
old
your fun
crap.
fact is a little different than most.
It's not a
but
fun fact at all.
That
It's
happened
fair.
to my neighbors a couple of years ago in a storm. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but literally went through their whole house. So after
Whoa.
that, we had 7 trees cut down.
That's crazy.
Smart, very
Yeah.
smart.
But there's still like 50 there. So
It's definitely nice to see and feel the sunshine.
yeah.
Correct.
Summer
Makes a
lasts
difference.
3 days.
I feel like we're not into like almost July tans yet.
Oh, you
I'm
were
not-
so
I
tan.
would say you're very tan. What are you
I'm
talking
fake.
about?
I'm
I'm
trying.
fake tan.
You're so fake,
I'm so
Allie.
fake.
Jeez. That's
Fake
funny.
tan.
Say I got a nice outdoor shoot yesterday, so I feel like I got a little
Good.
bit of my color back.
Little SPF.
I didn't do it. No, I just let it all go. It's the Italian
Come on,
skin.
you gotta do 15 or
The
something.
Italian skin. Just let it do its thing.
It's SPF.
Blech.
I don't like it either, but when you're my age, you have to realize
On your
all the-
face.
Yeah, I don't do it on my body.
Yeah, your face. I think SPF is good just for that sun, but
So we had a whole dialogue before our last recording about like, when do you put your sunscreen, right? You were having this whole dialogue. And I was like, I was at
And
home
then
and I was
Allie's
like,
like the genius of why don't you just mix it?
yeah, you're like,
Oh, combining a step.
correct.
Yes.
It's very true. Well, today's episode is a little more informal because apparently that's what the people want.
Yeah.
The people.
The people.
The 4 listeners.
The 4 listeners, 5 maybe after the,
Love you.
But we are very grateful
Thanks,
for
let's
those that
toast.
continue to tag us and post on social media.
That was fun. Is that our
and
first
text
tag?
us. We've had a couple, I think, but that was like the first consistent.
Ink and Splash shares us a lot.
So Ink
they
and Splash
do.
is awesome.
They-
Yes.
That's right. That's
We're
right.
very
She's gonna be
grateful.
on soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
excited to have
hosted an
her.
event here together.
Did you
She's so
really?
great.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
And her mission,
She's so amazing.
which I don't want to give away all the things she'll say, but her mission's just so impressive.
Yeah.
Why
Oh,
she
yeah.
does what she does.
Yeah.
And the heart behind
The
it.
mental health. Yep.
Purchased
Yeah,
multiple
yeah, I
cards
love
from her for anniversaries and other holidays and
Oh, yeah.
stuff, and I love it. And everyone's always like, "Oh, this is so cute." I'm like, "Oh, good."
I have her
Yeah.
journal, and I think it's a great excuse to color at 48.
Oh,
I
like
agree
it.
with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't really realize like how relaxing and fun coloring is.
100%.
Anytime anybody says, let's color, I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Same. I
Rachel
have
has an Aldi coloring book, and she's always like, "Ooh, this is fun."
I'm
Yeah.
at the
Like it.
kids' table coloring like Little Mermaid
Correct.
as
Love,
much as I can. I love it.
love.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I felt like we had a discussion in our text group, and Allie was a part of it. So I was very proud of you. I
showed
was
up
very
for the
proud
group
of you.
text.
When
Yay.
Allie texted the group yesterday, I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
She's
I'm like, "Is she
alive.
okay?" I was like, "What's happening?"
And she responded to the code to get in
She
today.
did. I was very,
Very,
proud. We were
very-
very proud of you, Allie.
What I did yesterday morning,
What?
I put the podcast notification on loud because
You're like-
I have like the little bubbles in my text messages.
Oh,
And
yep.
Do you have that on your iPhone?
No.
Where it's like messages, but your messages look like, hold on, sorry. Like that.
Oh, yeah, yep. Like
your
your
favorite
favorites
people?
up there, yep.
Oh,
None
God,
of
no.
those people
Text you?
notify me. I don't get notified. So they will go
Oh.
unread for a
But
very
they're
long
your
time.
favorites.
But I'm also like,
Correct.
I think I see Sadie in there. Just so you know, Sadie, you're going unread.
Wow.
I just don't get notified when any of those people are messaging me.
Like that's a setting you did?
It's a setting.
Well,
no,
you
it's
can-
a,
I mean,
it's
it's
an
the
automatic
same-
setting
yeah.
that you have to go in there because it's
can
going to
pin and
pop up on the
unpin,
it's always going to
you
be
know.
on the top.
Yeah.
So I had to go in and change my
Nope.
settings so that it notifies me. Yeah, it's just something you can do if you want.
Yeah.
And
We'll chat after the show. I'll help you
I
figure it
turned
out.
on podcast notifications
Smart.
on loud because
That way
You want to hear
just-
from us.
gotta know.
I'm just an
You
idiot.
want to hear from us.
I'm just an idiot sometimes. And I
No.
just, like, don't answer.
Not true. Not true.
I'll like
not-
look at him. I'll answer that later, and then I set it down, and then it's like 5 days. I'm like, oh, shoot, I should probably come back to that.
Shoot. You mean shoot.
For what it's
I
worth,
said shoot.
Mandy,
I said shoot.
She did say shoot. I'm still waiting for Allie to text me back when I texted her a week ago asking how she was, which is fine.
She's good. Look at her. She's
Apparently.
wearing an amazing
Like the
towel
last
skirt
text I
today.
have is me texting Allie.
Oh,
well,
I
you just
love
said
you.
something, and I was like, "How are you?" And I
I'm
was
so
like,
sorry.
"Okay," but I'm like, "I'll see her because
I'm
I'm going to
so
ask her
sorry.
in person on the show."
So sorry.
Well, the thing with the three of us is I think we all have this like unwritten connection, unspoken connection that like I check in with you from time to time,
Yeah.
check in with you from time to time.
It'd be nice if I could respond back.
Yeah. Listen,
We don't
bitch.
know how Allie is,
Apparently.
but we'll let you know when we
Apparently, since
figure it
Baxter
out.
and I are perfect, we don't need anybody to check in
Correct.
on us. No, but I think it's almost like this vibe that we have. Like
Yeah.
if we don't hear from each other, we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if we hear from each other, that's good. But we just it's like become a cool thing.
It's
Everybody
true.
needs people like that in their life.
Yeah.
I really believe that you like in just life in general, you need people
Yeah.
that are your friends, but like you don't need to be talking with them every single day.
Right.
Or
Yep.
even just like, obviously from my perspective, every week. You don't have to be talking every
Is
week.
she there?
She's taking her minimalist lifestyle to an extreme of like one text a
totally
month is
new.
what you get. Very minimalist.
I don't even look at my phone anymore.
All paper letters now. She's all back. She's gone backwards.
I'm bringing my notebook to meetings.
Yeah.
But I think it's good and I think it's genuine. And I think there's definitely a passion for, there's a genuine passion. Like,
Yeah.
how's Rachel? How's
genuine
the
care,
baby?
right?
How are the
Baby,
kids?
yeah.
How's this? How's that? But at the same point, it's not like overdone. But we can pick up right where we left off, even if we haven't talked
Correct.
in a while.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I love that. about
Yeah, I do too.
Trio.
And that's
I
the
was going to call it a threesome, but
well-
that's the episode that also could get
that also
canceled.
that's the real
Yeah,
cancellation one. The leggy episode and the threesome one.
That's
But
fine. You can cut this part because
That's probably true.
what I've learned is Baxter cuts what Baxter wants to cut that affects Baxter,
Mostly Mandy.
but he leaves everything that I say, whether it's detrimental or positive to my future.
You're bringing us the views.
That's true. You
At my
single-handedly.
expense. Great. What would you guys like
fine.
to know today?
Yeah, right.
Bring it on. I am an open book.
We appreciate that. But that stems with what we kind of wanted to talk about a little bit today, right? You kind of did a nice job of alluding to it, is I wanted to take the group text into the podcast because we do check in the group, but I think it would be beneficial for our listeners because I don't know how often people that are business owners get asked the very important and simple questions, in my opinion, of how are you and how's your business?
Yeah.
Because I think we are always everything's fine, everything's great, busy, busy, great life, whatever. We move
surface
on.
level.
Very much so,
Yeah.
right?
Small talk.
I've had a lot of conversations about my business the last 3 or 4 weeks, just with random people or people that were in my life that are, have surfaced back up or whatever it is. And it's got me thinking about it because I'm like, we do a great job of talking, I think, high level about business, and we've gone into stories as well. But I'm like, we haven't done a how's your business check in a minute because, well, so how are you? How are the kids? How's the life? How's whatever's going
How's
on?
summer?
Right?
How's
Right. All
balance?
of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's important because each of us, I'm sure, have had a very different first 7 months of the year or 6.5 months of the year, right, in our businesses. And we've talked about it a little bit. You've changed a little bit how you do things. You've, I'm sure, adapted and changed. My stuff has changed a lot, right? So I thought that would allow us an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit, give feedback if there's necessary there, but also just how are you genuinely, like, how can we, support you? What do you need, right? That type of thing, right? I think goes a long way. And they're very simple questions, right? It's not give me 17 reasons why things are difficult right now. It's just how are you and where does it go from there? And how's your business, right? That type of thing. So I think that is something that business owners don't ask each other enough, right? Or they're not willing to share.
Answer honestly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
at the
Because
end of
everything's
the
great,
day.
everything's fine. Like, oh, it's been busy, a little stressful, but yeah, everything's good, right? Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
okay. But really, though,
Keep on.
Right, exactly. But it's like, how's that one employee? How's that one client? How's this? How's
did the
that?
shift
Like,
go?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Can you pay everybody this month? Like, what are, all the things that as a
Yeah.
business owner, you're thinking about all the time, but you're like, oh, I'm not going to share it with Susie. Like, why does Susie
Right.
care? Right.
Or
like,
you never
type of
put
thing.
it out, and then it just becomes these intrusive thoughts that can sometimes be really hard as a business owner to,
Correct.
especially if you are struggling in your business or if it is a slow season and it never has been before.
Correct.
Like
Right.
I
Right.
relate to that because it's my first year in almost 15 years that I don't have a wedding in June and July.
Yeah.
And so how was I spending my time?
Correct.
Like,
Yeah. Or did you have
I
a
was
little
reading-
FOMO or were you panicked?
yeah.
Or was it
So
refreshing?
I read a quote that just has stuck with me, and it was, the happiest people I know are slowing down, not speeding up. And I'm in the era, if you will say, that's
Ooh.
what all the cool
Very
kids
trendy.
Very
what all the
Taylor
cool kids are
Swiftish.
saying. I'm in my era of just like choosing to be happy.
Pull
and
back
choosing
era.
yeah.
I'm in pull back
Yeah.
era.
But like really wanting to be genuinely happy in my life, which has been extremely difficult work, very, just personally. But then in business, because I intentionally chose to not have weddings for 2 months, the busiest 2 months out of the year, that is, every group I'm a part of, every single photographer that I know,
Yeah.
ramping up to busy season. And I'm like, can't relate.
Correct.
I can't relate right now to that. However, I get to spend my evening tonight in Door County taking photos of a family because that's what I chose
Yeah.
to fill my time with this year.
So how does that feel to you when
Great.
you say to people, I can't relate? Like,
will
is it a
say-
good feeling, a refreshing feeling, or is it like, oh gosh, what have I done?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a balance. Like there's a,
Yeah.
it's every other day is so different, I feel.
Yeah.
True.
In the industry I'm in, photography is so overly saturated. There are so many amazingly talented photographers in our area.
Yes.
And all of them have so many weddings.
Yeah.
And so I am sitting off to the wayside, like, ooh, do people not like me? There are times where I'm like, ooh, am I not like, I'm not, people don't want me to do their wedding anymore. But no, I don't want to do big
You're not
weddings anymore.
marketing to
I don't
weddings.
want to do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
That's not where my heart is anymore.
But it defined you for a long
But
time.
when you're in those conversations, it's very easy to be like, oh, I'm missing out.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
That. Yep.
And
sure.
I think for the longest time, even last year when I was choosing deliberately not to take weddings in June and July, and I was saying no, and I was giving these couples other names and things like that, I went through a grieving process in my business
Yeah.
of like, oh, am I making a mistake? Am I a wasted talent by not taking on all of the inquiries that are coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I started to really separate myself from my phone, separate myself from some of the business inquiries that are like overwhelming to me and just kind of setting them, not ignoring them, but saying like, I'm not available.
Yeah.
And then not giving them any other, response to other than, I'm really sorry, I'm really excited for you, but I am not available.
Yeah.
Right.
It has brought me such an immense amount of peace in my business because it has opened so many doors
Yep.
that I never thought would open in my business.
cool.
And it has allowed me to work on my craft in such a better way and such a more intentional way where I'm connecting with these moms and these dads and their
The
children
family in the dirt.
families
Correct,
in the
yeah.
dirt and
Right.
things like that where it's like, okay, this fulfills me. I'm happy.
And it's an
Business
hour.
is good. Business is busy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even though I struggle on the days where my mental health is playing,
Yeah.
games, tricks on my mind where I'm like, oh, I'm definitely missing out on these weddings. But guess what? I don't have to spend every single Saturday
Yeah.
working anymore.
Yes.
And that in the end, when I had my son, that was my goal. I would I would lose sleep at night being like, I don't want to work every Saturday anymore. I just don't. I want to be with my baby.
Yeah.
And so business, life, good. Working on me, working on happy, slowing down a
I
little
love
bit.
that.
And I think it's a valid point. What does happiness look like for
Yeah.
you? Because
Yeah.
there's no shame
Yeah.
in you equating happiness to being busy in your job.
Correct.
Either. I would say I lean towards the other end where I was never really fulfilled and happy staying at home.
Okay, yeah.
Like it wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So now if I'm getting my happiness from my job or the sale or the magazine or whatever it is, I can be a better mom and be more present when I am with the kids, but I'm not wired for that. It doesn't bring me joy. It actually brought me a lot of pain and sadness when my older two were young. I love my kids and I love being with them, but it wasn't what I was designed for. So it's interesting perspective because for me, that's I want to do more of the work.
Yeah.
And less of the home stuff.
Well, and that happiness, it's so personal to every single individual.
And one's not
out
right
there.
or wrong, right?
Totally.
No,
It's just what,
I think it's what makes the most sense for you in that season of life as well, right?
yeah.
And I relate to you in that. I think that that's a really cool thing because you're so good at what you do.
Well, thank
that
you.
becomes your identity. It becomes part of you. So
Yeah.
if you're not doing that work, if you're not out and about, in those communities and in the coffee shops and having the conversations, like sometimes even looking at it from that perspective of like the conversation makes you happy too. Talking and communicating with people.
Or people's
in your
perception.
business. Yeah.
Like if someone says to me, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. It like breaks my heart. I'm like, what do you mean?
I've been out.
It's because that's something that I try and strive to do, is to be out and about in our community and be involved. And when people haven't seen me, then that actually almost hurts my other feeling. The one we've decided from the last
One
episode
feeling.
that I have one feeling, but it like that is something that I desire to be good at. And that brings me happiness and fulfillment when people notice that and recognize that, or say like, I don't know how you're doing that. Like, and again, like I wish more things from my home and those kinds of things brought me that joy, but it's just not how I'm wired.
Yeah, that's okay.
Just not.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? I mean, I think
there's probably a lot of things wrong with me.
we don't have that kind of time.
We
but,
don't. That's like season 37.
Correct. Yeah. We'll do a deep dive on Mandy's mental and emotional state and the scars and everything.
36, 37, 38.
There you go. Exactly.
If we need topics.
Correct. Exactly. I like that. I think that is such a true statement though, right? Like you work on defining who you are, what makes you happy, what makes sense for you in that season of life as well, right? Like that first excitement of having a business, that excitement of having a new baby at home, whatever it is, right? All of a sudden you're trying to figure out like, okay, like where are my priorities? Or if you repeat something, or like, what is that rush? Does getting a new client give me more of a jolt or a rush than my kid getting an A on a test, right? Not that that's a bad thing, but like, is it the family stuff that excites you more, or the business stuff, or do they both excite you? And can you close this door for a moment and then walk in here and be like, all right, I'm here? Or are you kind of always standing in both rooms a little bit, right? Like, okay, like where am I going and how do I balance this, right? Within reason, which is always a difficult task.
Right.
And I think too, with my older two, I'm at a different stage in life. I have 2 adult children.
Yeah.
Totally.
So there's part of me that's trying to find my direction on my path as no longer being their mom, because they don't need their mom the same way as they used to.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, planting the seed and I don't have McGuire half the time. So when I don't have her, I can be
You're wide open. Yeah.
Right.
Just go for it.
Yeah. So as they've gotten older, my shift has changed as well.
Totally. Yeah. Baxter, how are you?
Yeah. Thank you for
How's
asking.
life?
He's fine.
Everything's fine.
And how's business?
Busy. Great. Everything's fine.
Can we get an update on the baby?
Yeah. Owen is 12 pounds as of this recording. He is 11 weeks as of today as well, which is crazy.
Yeah.
A lot more chatty, a lot more responsive now. So Rachel was folding laundry on the couch this morning and he was, just like all the coos, and she's just eating it up, right? Because she's like, oh my gosh, right? He's making all these noises.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to see him continue to take those steps, because it's been 5 years since Rio was a baby, right? So you forget sometimes, and what it's like until you've got another one in front of you. And I love being a parent through a new parent's eyes. Watching Rachel parent for the first time of a newborn is so fascinating and so fulfilling, in my opinion, right? Because
when you're older, you appreciate it more too.
Correct, very much so. Whereas when I was 24 and 26, I think, when Beckham and Rio were born. So I was still like, who am I? What am I doing with my life? As opposed to like,
these kids are ruining my schedule.
Correct,
Yeah.
right?
Probably be even a little bit healing to you.
It is, yeah. It's been very healing, just to be able to experience that excitement again, right? And to almost rekindle what it's like to be a parent of a newborn, right? Like, not that I'm a sucker for babies no matter what, but it's different when it's your baby. And when they start to make eye contact with you, suddenly your heart melts even farther, right? Like, because that like look off past you, you're like, okay, like whatever. But once they like look at you, you're like, oh,
and then
hi.
they smile when they hear your voice or something.
Is he old enough? Is he old enough to start, like, now the boys come and go, right? So when the boys are back, do you see any different response yet?
I think he's like, it's loud, right? I think he's like, he understands that. And Rio still, to his credit, still just gets right up in his face. He's like, hello. Like,
can you see me?
Correct.
Can you focus?
Yes, very much so. So I think he picks up on it a little bit. The boys were gone for a week for summer camp and a couple other things. So like they haven't been around. So we're finishing up our 5-day stretch. So I think we're kind of getting back into that again, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's been, being a parent of a newborn has been fun, right? I really genuinely enjoy it. And I know some people are like, oh, it was so hard. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, no, I don't enjoy waking up 2 or 3 times a night, but I love having a son, you know, I love having a baby at home. I love watching how excited Rachel is and how fulfilled she feels by having a baby in the house, right? Like that is really helpful. So,
when he starts to realize that, like, I remember when McGuire was little and the kids would leave for school. We'd drop them off at the bus. And it got to the point where she would almost know in the day and she'd stand by the window.
Yes.
And then when she'd see the bus, she'd start jumping up and down. And it was just like, or she'd run to the end of the driveway. We had a 1 acre, you know. Yeah. Those were like the best memories, is that watching the big kids run to her. So you've got so many of those coming, which will be so great.
I see that a lot with the boys because they have a sister at mom's house and she'll be 3, right? So she is at that age where like my favorite truly is when they go back, like you'll hear the car door open and just the squeal. They're like, oh, like brothers. Like she gets so, and it makes my heart happy. Like I love that they have that relationship with their sister and they were like, Meredith, and like they run and like it's that embrace and it's so cute. And I'm like, that's what I hope your siblings, because I know so many siblings that are estranged and I'm like, I want them to have those relationships.
A bond.
Yeah, not to glorify divorce, right? But your son will have the opportunity to have his own little like only child days. And then, you know, his sibling days.
Correct.
Which
Exactly.
Is kind of cool. It's kind of like McGuire. She's the youngest, but yet there's a lot of traits that make her an only child too.
Very much so. I would say overall with baby, everything there seems to be going really, really well. As far as me as a person, I feel like I continue to do a lot of reflection on who I am and what I want, I guess, in life, and just continuing to figure out relationships. And first year of marriage, Rachel and I just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, right? So like that kind of stuff, right? It just continuously doing those checks of like, okay, where are we at? How is everybody else feeling? And making sure that I'm also taking care of myself as well, right? Like, and trying to take things a lot less personally in life, but also in business as well, because you get so hung up at times about like, well, why won't that person work with me? Or why won't they return my messages or whatever? It's that self-doubt. But then at the end, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop taking it personally. I'm like, chances are it's probably nothing to do with me. And I just need to stop creating this false narrative of I'm bad. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too expensive. I'm whatever lie I'm telling myself.
Yeah,
and just be like,
scenario you're creating in your head.
I'm like, because 9 times out of 10, that's not true, because I've had people come back and be like, oh, I'm so, like, I missed your message. Like, it wasn't, had anything to do with me, or I'm so sorry, or da-da-da. And I'm like, my bad. I'm sorry. I was really mean to myself on behalf of you, and you had nothing to do with it. I'm so sorry. So trying to do that. I did something a little crazy that I don't know if anything will come of it, but I've only told like 2 people, but I applied for a new job.
What?
With the Packers, because there's a videographer job open.
Wow.
So it's, by the time this comes out, I have no idea where that process will be. I've heard nothing. They closed the job a few weeks ago. I've heard nothing, and I don't expect it. It's not one of those things where I need this job. It's not like I'm desperate for it. I love my job that I currently do, but the job that they have available has never been open in the last 3 years, right? So it's one of those where I'm like, it can't hurt to try. And if and there's so many things that would have to line up for that. Yeah. But by even applying,
but wouldn't it be cool to just say like, hey, do you want this opportunity? Even if you said no.
Yeah. So there's a lot of those question marks of like, well, does that mean I'm like, what does that look like with my business? What does that look like? Because right now I've got a very good schedule, a very good routine. Like I know everything and it's pretty set right across the board. But I'm like, this would kind of throw a wrench into things. But I'm like, I had enough conversations with Rachel and with other, trusted advisors. I'm like, I just want to try, right? Like that's all it is. And I'm like, I can still say no, right? Like it's not like I apply and, oh, you've got the job. And like, wait, like there's so much that goes with it. So
it's like the what if.
Curious.
Like, what if you wouldn't? You would almost kick yourself more if you wouldn't at least approach and try to do it.
Yeah, and if it didn't work out, but they said yes to you, how cool is that to say? I turned
very
down
much
the job
so.
with the Packers.
Yeah.
And you actually spoke that on one of our podcasts.
Did, yeah.
You said that was kind of your childhood dream and your adult dream is to video somebody coming through the tunnel.
Correct.
And then we also talked about manifesting.
Yes.
So if you get to do that,
Yeah.
It's because you spoke it into
I'll be very honest though. The reason that I officially applied is because I went back and I listened to that episode. So
Seriously?
very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
cool.
So I went back and I was like, I don't know. I was in my head.
You get emotional.
Yes, I'm getting emotional.
Oh my God, love
It was just one of those things where I'm like, I am so incredibly grateful for the support system that I have and for you ladies and what you do for me. And to feel that championing behind me meant so much.
I love that.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to try. I'm like, nothing can come from it. That's okay. But I'm like, to know that there's people cheering for me meant a lot. And that's why I wanted to do it.
We're always here in your corner.
Yeah. And that meant so much, truly,
The fact that we've all been in positions where we've started our businesses from nothing and you have one or two people that believe in you.
Yeah.
Right?
All it takes.
It's all it takes.
And that goes back to why we called this the real chat.
Yes.
If we can somehow let one or two people know that we're in their corner, however that looks, or we're cheering for you, however that looks, we're for you, not against you,
Very
however
much
that
so.
looks. That's why we
do that.
I mean, I don't think any of us really have an extra 3 hours in our day,
No.
a couple Tuesdays a month to be like, let's just go hang out and do a podcast.
Right.
But to know that that is making a difference and to know, and even just for me to remember that we talked about
Yeah.
it. Like I remember you created this vivid picture of
remember
like,
that
this
too.
is what I want to do. So
Yeah, it was, like I said, I was driving, listening to that episode and I was like, okay, I'm like, that is, I knew that conversation was out there. I knew that we had talked about it, but I'm like, I just need to hear it again.
Yeah.
And I need to hear how I responded to it when I said I needed to hear from you ladies again, how you had responded to me saying that. And I was like, no, this isn't crazy. I've been very honest with my current job since day one. I was like, the only reason I'd ever leave is if the Packers called. And everybody knows that. It's not a secret. It's not one of those, like, how could you? Like, that's why I feel okay saying it.
I think of like the
Right?
Packers.
Like-
When I think of Baxter Colbert, I think of the Pack. Like I don't know why.
like
but
anybody
maybe it's
running out the
because of-
tunnel with the smoke in
and
the
maybe
video,
it's because
like
of all
Baxter
the
can do that.
sports,
Yeah.
that you've been involved with in the past and how it runs like through your blood.
Very much so.
Like your love for sports.
Yeah.
But I literally think of the Packers when I think of your work sometimes.
Wow.
And I'm like, I truly believe to my core that your work is worthy to be for the Packers. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot, truly. Like, it's
Just don't forget about us.
yeah,
Small people.
small people. Okay.
I
you're-
love tailgating. I love going to Packer games. I could even hold your camera bag.
Thank you.
I can wear a
I
Packer
appreciate
jersey.
that.
And then when you
there we
say I
go.
need that
Signed.
SD, I'll be like, I know what that
Like,
is.
yeah.
And when
Someone
you
else may
say
not know what that is.
I need that middle-aged
I would
mom that's
know.
at a Packer game, I'm
I need
there.
another SD card. Okay,
Good.
yeah,
Got it.
I got
I'm
you.
on my way.
I got you.
It's true.
love it.
I love that. So it's that whole emotion, right? That whole side of things personally and like even professionally, but then really fast from a business perspective, because I know we've got to keep moving and this isn't the Baxter show, but the
Today it can be.
business, I appreciate it. The business side of it is feeling so incredibly fulfilled with the work that I do and realizing that the right relationships come along at the right time.
Yeah.
I wanted to share this because I did a shoot on Thursday. And we had talked a little bit about it, and Allie wasn't able to be there, but
Oh, this is another one of the things you guys did without me?
it was the only thing, right?
Seems to make for good episodes when you guys do stuff
but
without me.
I won't. I
wasn't there.
I won't share this.
You were invited.
I was.
It's true. I won't share this person's name, but the shoot was phenomenal and it went really, really well. And I was just very reflective after the fact, right? I was driving home and I texted one of the models that had been a little bit in her head about the whole process. And she was like, hey, like, never really done this before, like a little very self-doubty. And I'm like, you're amazing. Like you did so great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Right. And then I had actually texted her, the next day, because it was still in my head a little bit about like how she was talking about it. And I just texted her. I was like, hey, I just like out of left field. I was like, seriously, I was like, you crushed it. Like no context, like just want you to know, like, thank you again. You crushed it. And she texted me back and she said, the clip that you posted that I reshared was the first time I have ever, in all caps, looked at a picture or a video of myself and not immediately thought something negative. She's like, my first thought was, you look pretty. She's like, 42 years, Baxter. She's like, thank you for capturing that.
Aw,
And I was like, yeah. And I was like
that.
driving in my
body
car,
chills.
like trying not to cry because I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, and my response, I'm like, wow. I'm like, honestly, that's the biggest and greatest compliment I've ever received in any of my work. I'm like, people are very kind and they say nice things about the work that you do. And I'm sure you've both had this in moments, right? But like, I told this to Rachel when I got home, I was like, it's so much more than taking a picture or taking a video, right? Like this is when I talk about being a good steward of the opportunities that come, I'm like, this is what I care about, right? Like, yes, I'm grateful for the monetary and the success that come with it, but I'm like, it's so much bigger than that. And the relationships that you can build or the confidence that you didn't know somebody needed, right? It wasn't a complicated shot, right? It was a very straightforward shot of somebody walking and smiling and that was it, right? Like it wasn't this grand cinematic editing, like it was one shot. But for some reason, that was such a pivotal moment for that person that you didn't know that they needed.
You see it from behind the camera as not a big deal.
Correct.
But someone who's struggled, and I know you can relate, with body issues and image issues and skin issues and hair issues and all the issues as a woman, it really is a huge thing when you can look at a picture of yourself and not go through the critique list.
Absolutely.
Because so many of us do it. Yeah. I mean, I do it every time I come to the podcast. Even when you're wearing a towel for a skirt, I compare myself to you because you're so trendy. But it's a curse that a lot of women struggle with.
Guys too, though, for sure.
And guys too, yes.
And it's so normalized in our society to like not like a photo of ourselves or to just like not enjoy
or edit
the
it.
way that we look.
Yeah, edit it and
because of one angle of a photo, which is not how you look in
correct.
Like this can be like a little closing statement. I was listening to another podcast. It was like a video podcast or whatever. And I was like, think of how many times you as a person have tried to take a picture of a sunset and you're like, this picture just does not do it justice.
Correct. Yeah.
Like you're the sunset.
Aww.
Right?
Yeah.
It's true.
Like you are the sunset.
Right.
Absolutely
and
true.
A photo of you does not determine your worth. It does not determine your beauty. It does not determine how worthy you are. You are the sunset. That's all I gotta say about that. I love that you did that for her because
same.
I saved it. I took a screenshot. I saved it. I was like, I sent it to the brand as well. I was like, I just want you to know that like this, like, thank you for the opportunity because it led to this, right? Like, and this was so much bigger than a piece of clothing or whatever we were doing in the moment, right? And they even were like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for sharing that, right? Like,
that's a story they can tell with their branding.
And I hope they do, right? Like, I really hope that that is something bigger than that because that confidence, right? You talk about putting something on, right? As a woman or even as a guy, right? Like you want to feel good in what you're wearing, right? Like that alone right there. I'm like, you just made somebody feel really good for the first time in 42 years with a piece of your clothing on their body, right? Like that's a huge, high five to them as well, right? For the quality that they've created. So
totally.
It was just that it was just such a nice way to have that affirmation, right? Come through as well of just like, okay, like we're doing good things. Like we're making good strides. And it's so much more than just a shoot here or a shoot there or a camera or whatever it is, right? Like, and to not take things for granted, right? Like you just enjoy and be in the moment and have fun with it and do the best you can with what's in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
I don't know. That was just, I've been very grateful in that. And I try to continue to express that to people. It's always fun to talk to people. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody at a shoot that I did, and we used to be friends a long time ago, and then I moved out of the area, and he and I still chat every once in a while. And it's always fascinating to hear about what other people see your business as from afar. Yeah. Especially if you don't talk to them very often, right? Like, so it's always the like, so
I've been
like,
watching you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, or the things that they pick up on, like, so I see you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And like, so is this full time? Is this not? Right. Like, and those not funny questions, but like people that don't necessarily know all the ins and outs, but like their perception of what you do is fascinating to me sometimes because you're like, oh, that's what I come off as. Interesting, right? Or that's how you perceive what I do. I'm like, interesting. And I'm never offended by it. It's more of that, like, interesting.
I didn't see it
that's
that way,
what you picked up on. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, thank you for that. And very supportive and all kind things. But it was just fascinating to have that conversation with someone and just being like, okay, like, you're doing a great job. I'm like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that, right? Like, very not attached, like, no skin in the game, but just like, I've been watching and I enjoy what you do. I just want you to know that. I'm like, oh. Okay. Thank you very much for that. That means a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. See, this is what happens when you ask people how they are, right? And how their business is, right? Like there's so many ways that I can go, and I don't go out of my way to be emotional, but it's happened a lot in my life. But I I do mean that though. Like what I said, I'm like, I'm grateful for the relationships with you ladies, right? Like the show is wonderful, but our relationships mean so much more to me, right? And the friendship goes so much deeper than that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think if you can cry in front of a person, I think that moves the level of friendship from surface level to a little bit higher, right? Like I'm very grateful for that. And all of us have done that in some capacity with each other at some
Yeah.
point. So
I think we've all
grateful
seen
for
each
that.
other on our best days and our worst days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I agree with that.
very much.
that's,
Yeah.
and
very
there's
agree.
more to come.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay
Season
tuned.
3.
Season 3.
Right? Exactly.
The best and the worst.
Correct.
love
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this episode up. Any final thoughts from you ladies about anything today or what's to come with life or business or any of that?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I love it.
Yeah.
Please continue to share episodes. If we said something that resonated with you, we're grateful for the people that send us messages, truly. Like we read them and we try to respond as best as we can.
We laugh about them.
We do. Yeah. We talk about them. We send them in the group text and we're like, can you believe it? This is so awesome. Like, thank you for that. Right. Like we talked about it at the top, but like I feel like we should shout Maggie out again, right? Like Maggie with let's toast, let's
Yeah,
host events,
let's
let's
toast.
host events. Like
Yeah.
phenomenal, right? Like
Yeah.
so very kind of her to go out of her way of like clipping out a piece of the episode and like sharing that and like talking about it. And
Ink and Splash. We have a few of our like favorite
correct.
followers
Yes.
that are
That definitely
always,
take their
like,
time.
hearting, sharing, and those
Correct.
things are so important.
It means a lot, truly.
does.
It really, really does. So thank you for that.
And if we don't respond right away, it's because we're all responding to our own businesses outside of the podcast, but we will.
Correct. 100%. So
Yeah.
continue to keep listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Chat Podcast. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. So thanks
New
for tuning in.
episodes soon and a lot of exciting guests coming
Yes.
your way.
Can't wait for it.
Yep.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.